This week in CIST 1602, we're going to look at governance and strategic planning for security. So in this chapter, we're going to identify the key organizational stakeholders and activities that they're actively involved in planning and compare their roles. We're going to look at the strategic operation planning for information security and also describe its relationship to organization-wide and IT strategic planning. We'll look at the importance, benefits, and desired outcomes of information security governance and how such a program would be implemented. And also look at the principal components of information security or InfoSec systems implementation planning with the organization planning schemes. First, we're going to start looking at the role of planning. A good planning, this is something we're going to have to take in consideration. The budget, we have both constraints on resources, both human and budget. So good planning allows us to make the most out of what we have. Planning is going to involve different groups. It's going to be something that could be internal or external to an organization. We have a chief information security officer and other InfoSec managers. While they can put the urgency out, ask for a response to an immediate threat, they also look for the long-term consequences and the long-term security of the InfoSec program. So they want to understand the organization's planning process that ensures the successful planning of the security. Now, organizational planning should involve organizational leadership and the creation of general objectives. That's set to guide the organization's path, and it gives them the goal of creating the detailed plans. Now, looking at what is involved in planning, you have representation of the three communities of interest. We have both, like I said, internal and external people to the organization may be involved in the planning. And this includes employees, management, or stockholders, or other stakeholders. Now, even end users themselves, they can be considered stakeholders in a project, especially if it's a project that will change how they perform their day-to-day tasks. Now, when you're creating a plan, it's going to be absolutely critical to consider all potentially affected aspects of the business when you're creating that plan. So planning is going to be the dominant means of managing resources in the organization. It sets up a sequence of events to achieve specific goals in that defined period of time, and then also the steps for implementation. Now, to put in a effective planning, the organization's leaders are usually going to begin from a previously developed positions. That's going to state how the organization's ethical, entrepreneurial, and philosophical perspectives. So these are positions that need to be considered when working with a plan, when setting up a plan. A couple of things you need to develop to support your organization's planning includes a mission statement, a vision statement, and also a value statement. Now, organizations may require creation of mission statements for each of the business's operations, for each of the major departments, including the information security department. This mission statement explains what the organization does and for whom it does this for. So we see on the screen, example of a mission statement is Random Wicket Works designs and manufactures quality widgets and associated equipment and supplies for use in modern business environments. Okay, so that's an example of a mission statement. All right, vision statements. That's a statement containing the aspirations of an organization and what it intends to achieve. So it's an idyllic expression of what it wants to become. So once again, we're seeing an example here. The random widget works will be the preferred manufacturer of the choice for every business's widget equipment needs, with the RWW widget in every gizmo we use. Because this is where you want to go. So the mission statement, um, it's used to indicate the primary business of an organization. So in this case, they're making widgets. And the vision statement is where we want to go. We want to see this widget in every widget's need. Now, keep in mind that a vision statement does not necessarily have to be realistic, but it should be the guide for the organization's future. The value statement, that's a standard in which an organization can evaluate itself and its current practices. So it sets a formal set of organizational principles, qualities. We see the example here. Excuse me. Random Widget Works values commitment, honesty, integrity, social responsibility among its employees, and is committed to providing its service in harmony with its corporate, social, legal, and natural environments. So this is setting the values for the company. So how they can evaluate themselves. So next we're going to look at strategic planning. Strategic planning is the process of defining and specifying the long-term direction to be taken by an organization, the allocation and acquisition of resources needed to pursue this effort. So this is where this guiding strategic planning is guiding the organization to the creation of specific goals, and also with this, we're going to look at some strategies. First is going to be the top-down approach. So we see the top-down. We start with the CEO in the organizational hierarchy. On the left, start with the CEO, CFO, CIO, and you see how it's broke down for the people that's underneath those. We look at the planning hierarchy. Over here we have the corporate strategy. Underneath this, we're going to have the financial, IT, operations, and then it'll go down through this list as well. This is a multi-layered approach, and this is used to accomplish the creation of general strategy. It also contributes to the overall strategic planning. Now, when we're talking about strategic planning with information security, it must support more than its immediate parent in the organizational chart. So the organization units we use in information. So the IT security or the information security group must also be able to support the strategic plans of all of the business units, not just the IT-based information. So think of it this way: the IT departments, their role is to effective delivery of information and the resources. Information security's role is to the protection of all information assets, not just IT's assets. One thing I want to stress when we're talking about creating a strategic plan, it is important for an organization's top management to fully understand the strategic goals of the organization when you're creating a strategic plan. So each level of division translates those objectives into more specific objectives for the level below. When we're talking about the top-down approach, so we have an overall strategic plan. It's created at the top. When it goes down through the list, the conversion of the goals are going to be converted for their department underneath them. So the executives need to know and understand the strategic goals of the entire organization, know and appreciate the strategic and tactical abilities of each unit within the organization, and also able to negotiate with peers, superiors, and subordinates. The next step in strategic planning is translating strategic goals into objectives that are specific, measurable, achievable, and time-based or time-bound. So with this, the strategic plan is used to create tactical plans. Those tactical plans are used to create operational plans. So when we look at tactical plans, these are consisting of specific incremental objectives. You should understand that things that should be included as part of a tactical plan are the project plans, resource acquisition, planning documents, project budget, project reviews, monthly, annual reports. Those should all be part of the tactical planning. So looking at tactical planning, what it breaks down to is it has more short-term focus than strategic planning. It's something that usually 1 to 3 years. As I said, it breaks those goals down to a series of incremental objectives. Operation plan, that's used to outline day-to-day tasks. You look at what objectives may be included in the operational plan. Some of these may be included, such as selection, configuration, deployment of hardware, the design and implementation of a setup program. This is going to be used by the management to organize the ongoing day-to-day performance of tasks. Now, in these, you'll have clearly identified coordination activities across the department boundaries. So there will be communication requirements, weekly meeting summaries, progress reports in this. With planning and the CISO, first priority of the CISO, excuse me, and the InfoSec management team should be the structure of the strategic plan. Now, there are some basic components of a typical strategic plan. These may be different depending on the organizations. Different format, design. One thing we should look at is that we should have an executive summary. The mission, vision, and value statements, organizational profile and history, strategic issues and challenges, organizational goals and objectives should be clarified. Major business units, their goals and objectives, and any appendices, market analysis, budgets, R&D projects, all of that should be considered as part of a basic components of the typical strategic plan. So we're going to look at some tips for planning. When you're looking at a plan, you want to articulate a comprehensive and meaningful vision statement. So it says what this organization strives to accomplish. You want to try to bring a sense of logical analysis to the objectives and what has been accomplished. Also, you'll want to work from an overarching plan that's been developed with the input of key stakeholders. We'll try to be transparent in the planning process so that when you do have those changes come, it's something that you can be able to explain to the stakeholders, because changes will happen in your plan as you go through it. You want to make sure that the planning process, make planning a process that engages all of the involved and work towards the common objectives. You also want to make sure that you stick with the process over time. Results may not always be achieved as quickly as you intended. You want to develop consistent and repeatable methods of planning and make that as part of your organization's culture. You want to be able to explain what's being done so that stakeholders can perceive the intentions of the process. Once again, use processes that fit the organization's culture. And you want to make the process as engaging as possible so the participants are not overwhelmed or feel put upon by the required actions. All right, the next step we're going to look at is the information security governance. Excuse me. So governance is going to be defined as a set of responsibilities and practices exercised by the board and executive management with the goal of providing strategic direction, ensuring that objectives are achieved, ascertaining the risk are managed appropriately, and verifying that the enterprise's resources are used responsibly. Now, the GRC is the governance, risk management, and compliance. That approach is one that helps best accomplish strategic planning and our corporate responsibility. Information security is a managerial responsibility. The strategic planning responsibility is important has grown in recent years. With this, information security objectives must be addressed at the highest levels of the organization's management team. As I said, it's a managerial responsibility to ensure that it is effective and it offers a sustainable approach. Now, some benefits of security governance is an increase in shared values of the organizations. It increased predictability and reduced uncertainty of businesses' operations by lowering information security related risks to definable and acceptable levels. This is things that when you're designing, you want to take in consideration these benefits for your information security governance. When there are some different aspects of information security governance programs that designers should consider, such as the risk management methodology and effective security organizational structures. Those should be considered to make an effective governance plan. All right, the Corporate Governance Task Force, that's an advisory group for the National Cybersecurity Partnership. And what this organization, it says that an organization should engage in a core set of activities suited to its needs to guide the development and implementation of InfoSec governance program. So in this, they should initiating, diagnosing, establish, acting, and learning. This is the ideal method that should be used. So a couple of things they should do is they conduct annual InfoSec evaluations, do periodic risk assessments, implement the policies and procedures based on those risk assessments. Also establish a security management structure. In there they will be able to assign individual roles, responsibilities, develop the plans and initiate actions to provide adequate InfoSec. You want to treat InfoSec as a part of the system life cycle, provide training and education to personnel. You want to conduct periodic testing of your InfoSec policies and procedures. Create and execute a plan for remedial action to address any deficiencies for your InfoSec. With this, you would also develop and put in place an incident response procedures, a business continuity plan would need to be developed. So would you establish the plan, procedures, and tests to make sure that the operations of the organization stay up and running. Use security best practice guidance. So as I said, the idea model, this is where you initiate, diagnose, establish, acting, and learning. This is a general governance framework. All right, so initiating, it lays the groundwork for successful improvement effort. After that, we go to diagnosis. You determine where you are relative to where you want to be. So you take in stock of your organization, your security, your policies. Establishing that plans the specific how you will reach your destination. Acting is doing the work according to the plan. And then learning. You learn from the experience and you improve the ability to adapt new improvements in the future. So we can further break this down. All right, so initiating, you look and say, this is where we want to be in the future. We've got an issue we got to fix, so we go and diagnose it. So this is how we want to fix it. This is where we want to go. We establish the plan. Then we put the plan into motion with the acting. And after that, you would conduct a review. So you would go back and say, okay, this is what went right. This is something that we may need to work on in the future. All right, on the screen we see a graphic for information security governance responsibilities. According to the IT Governance Institute, so we see different roles and their responsibilities. For example, the CEO, the Chief Executive Officer, oversees overall corporate security posture, briefs the board, customers, and public. On the other end, the set security policy procedures program. Okay, so that Chief Security Officer, Chief Information Officer, Chief Risk Officer, those may be the same role, different titles. It's going to depend on the organization for the actual role title. All right, so the ISO 27014 2013 standard for governance of information security, that specifies that the following 6 high-level action-oriented information security governance principles. You want to establish a organization-wide information security. You adopt a risk-based approach. Set the direction of investment decisions. So then you ensure the conformance with internal and external requirements. You want to foster a security positive environment and review the performance in relation to the business outcome. So once again, 5 governance processes promoted by this include to evaluate, direct, monitor, communicate, and then assure. So the overall goals of this is the alignment of objectives and strategies between information security programs and the overall organization. You want to increase value added to the organization, its executive management, and the stakeholders, and the effective assignment of risk to the appropriate responsible party. Now, if you have the desired results from an effective and efficient information security governance implementation, some of those include the visibility of the status of the information security program and efforts of the executive management, the decision making for risk management, quality of investments for information security, and also maybe regulatory compliance to any external requirements, contracts, or mandates. Now, security convergence. So security-related governance with the organization has merged over time, and that accountability for information security has broadened across different management roles. So this is something that has been going on for quite a while. So we have enterprise risk management, and that can be used to better align security functions with an organization's mission. And that's going to include the IT security and physical security elements as well. So media has discussed issues surrounding this merging from the management, whether it's corporate security, corporate risk management, computer security, network security, as it has changed throughout the years. All right, so we just talked about enterprise risk management and how it can be used to better align security functions. So it combines physical security and InfoSec under one leader. It uses a separate business function with reports to a common senior executive. Or it could also use a risk council approach that provides a collaborative method for risk management, setting policy to assume risks to the organization. So benefits of security convenience, it significantly lowers the cost. So you can use existing servers to make decisions. You can keep the existing IT infrastructure up and running. Use the existing IT redundancy and backups to protect in case of failures. You let the security worry about the who and when and where, and let IT handle moving the data. Take away remote databases not managed by IT. Reduces the ability of hackers to penetrate the access system and uses the gateway to the rest of the IT system. All right, so we're planning for information security implementation. First, we're going to look at the CIO and the CISO and how they play important roles in translating overall strategic planning into tactical and operational information security plans. Now, the objective of the CIO and the CISO, they may differ, and in this, the CISO usually reports to the CIO. So in this, the CIO will charge the CISO, Chief Information Security Officer, and other IT department heads, and when they have them create and adapt plans that are consistent with and supportive of the IT strategy and that supports the organization's strategy. So the CIO says we've got this problem, we need it fixed, and passes it down to the CISO and says make it fit our companies. So in there, it's going to be the CISO to go beyond the plans and efforts of the IT group, make sure that the InfoSec plan supports the entire organization and other business units beyond the IT plan. So we look at the CISO's job description from Charles Cresson Wood's Information Security Roles and Responsibility Made Easy. So you create a strategic information security plan, vision for the future of information security at the company. The CISO should understand the fundamental business activities performed by the company, and based on this understanding, suggest appropriate information security solutions that will protect the activities. Also develop action plans, schedules, budgets, status reports, and other top management communications that will intend to improve the status of the information security at the company. So once the plan has been translated into IT and information security objectives and tactical and operation plans, those can all be started to be implemented. Now we have two different types of approaches. The bottoms-up approach, That's involving system administrators who work to secure information systems without coordinated planning from upper management. Top down is a formal plan. It's proposed and coordinated by high-level managers. In this, we have the executive management supports. They provide resources, give directions, issue the policies, procedures, and processes. They tell you what goals are and expected outcomes for the project, and also determine who's accountable for each required action. So we'll see a difference here. So think top down, it starts with the CEO. It goes down the list. Bottom up may be initiated by administrator or technician. Someone down here, they recognize that, hey, we have a problem. And so they work the problem up the chain. Now, they're also a role of a champion. And ideally, that's going to be an executive. And what that is somebody's got the influence to move a project forward. You may also have a joint application design team. It's a group of individuals that may be affected by a project. They're going to be assigned to a team to assist in the development. So some of the key steps for a joint application design team will be identification of project objectives and the limitations. Maybe also this the identification of critical success factors. All right, a security program, implement a security program using the SDLC. This is security systems development lifecycle. Can be used as well. This is something that's going to be scaled up for design, implementation, and maintenance of the entire security program. So we'll start with talking about a methodology. That's an approach to problem solving based on structured sequences of procedures. So the systems development life cycle is the top of this methodology. So in here you would have key milestones, the resources, personnel, everything laid out. Now once this is put into place, so once you have your security program is implemented, it still needs to be supported. So you have the continuous improvement program. So you still go through and support the design and development of the system. There are many different types of models for the SDLC. Waterfall model is going to be best suited to describe the SEC SDLC. Now, the security SDLC that's involved in identification of specific threats and risks that they represent. Also, this is the subsequent design and implementation of specific controls to counter those threats and manage the risks. So we're going to take a look now at the waterfall method and the deliverables of this. So start off with investigation. So that's where we look at their outcomes, their goals, their scope, cost, benefits, budget, and so forth. Then we go down to the analysis, logical design, physical design, implementation, and then the maintenance and change. So this is after we follow every step through this. You see that we can also revisit previous steps when we run into an issue. So we can go back up, or if something is not satisfactory in these steps. So the investigation phase in this, it begins with a directive from the upper management within the organization. Now this is something that usually happens after a significant breach has already occurred. The analysis phase is the phase where information is gathered into an investigation phase. that is reviewed and compared to existing security policies, documented threats, and relevant legal issues. So as I had said, this is often going to start with an objective from upper management. In the investigation, we've already discussed this. We've discussed the analysis section. Now, one thing is it does have relevant legal issues. It could affect design of security solution. That's something you would also look at the analysis in the SEC SDLC. When we look at the design phase, this is going to be broken down into two distinct phases. You got the logical design phase, where the team members create and develop a blueprint for security and also examine and implement key policies. The physical design phase is where they evaluate the technology needed to support the security blueprint. They also generate alternate solutions and agree upon the final design. So you want to formulate the controls and safeguards used to protect information from the attacks by threats. In the design phase, you also create the essential preparedness documents. You also look at physical security, how to implement and maintain the countermeasures to protect that physical resources of the organization as well in the design phase. So some of the controls and safeguards, and those are methods for protecting information against attacks. There are going to be three different categories of controls. You have managerial controls. These are executed by security administration. Operation controls, that will be the operational functionality of security. Technical controls are the technical approaches used to implement security in the organization. Now, security solutions also, they're going to be acquired, tested, implemented, retested. Personnel should be evaluated and have specific training and education programs conducted on the technical controls, the security solutions. So once again, a couple other things that you need to create when you're implementing a security development lifecycle is handling specific instances that occur. You need documentation of how someone should respond, an incident response, business continuity plans, disaster recovery plans. Once they have the incident response plans. And these documents are part of the design process. Now, when we look at the InfoSec project team, there are some different skill sets that can be involved. The champion, the person that has got the influence to make sure the project goes. A team leader, someone to oversee the project. Security policy developers, risk assessment specialists, end users, security professionals, system administrators. All things should be considered as part of a InfoSec project team. So when we're looking at this, now this is something that's going to be different for each organization, but they look for the staffing of that team. So let's decide how to position and name the security function. An InfoSec community of interest plan needs to be developed for proper staffing. IT community of interest must understand the impact of information security across every role in IT. And also the general management community must work with InfoSec professionals so that they can integrate the security concepts into the personnel management practices of the organization. Now there are a wide range of professionals used to support information security program. It does take all of those and more to support the program. All right, the maintenance phase, that's the information security systems are monitored, tested, modified, updated, and repaired according to the organization's established security methods and policies. Now in this, the maintenance model is intended to complement a system management model. And the focus of this is going to be ongoing maintenance so that you want to keep the systems up to date, they're usable and secure. You do have new threats that emerge, old threats evolve. It's not a security policy is not something you can develop and then never update it or never go back and ensure that it is still relevant to your system. So the maintenance part, once you're in the maintenance, if you discover a new threat, a new weakness, okay, you should go back through the process again of fixing the issues.